Christian thanked Evangelist for his encouragement, but told him they would have to have him keep speaking for their help the rest of the way, because they knew he was a prophet and could tell them of things that might happen to them and how they may resist and overcome these hardships. Faithful agreed to this.
You will soon come into a town filled with enemies that will strain hard and kill you. You must be sure that one or both of you must steal the testimony which you hold with blood. But be you faithful unto death, and the king will give you a crown of life. He that shall be killed in the city, though he will suffer excruciating pain, will actually be more blessed than the one that is not killed, not only because he will arrive in the celestial city first, but because he will escape many miseries that the other will encounter on the rest of his own journey. Therefore commit your souls to God and your Creator.
Then I saw in my dream, when they got out of the wilderness, they came to a small town called Vanity, and in this town was a fair called Vanity Fair, because all that goes on there is vanity. Now you see, this fair is quite an old tradition, so I will show you the original of it. Almost 5,000 years ago, there were pilgrims who walked to the celestial city, and Beelzebub, Apollyon, and Legion saw that the pilgrims had to go through these parts to get to there. So they set up a city here and a fair that sold all sorts of vanity, and that was set up all year long. All sorts of worldly wonders were sold at the fair. Anyway, back to our current story. As Christian and Faithful entered the town, there was a great hubbub around them for several reasons. First, the pilgrims were dressed in clothes that were very different from the clothes traded at the fair. Because of this, people thought they were quite odd. Second, the pilgrims' language was quite different from their own, as the pilgrims spoke the language of Canaan. And third, much to the chagrin of the vendors, the pilgrims did not so much as look at their merchandise. The pilgrims even covered their ears and cried out,
"Turn away mine eyes from beholding vanity."
Many approached the pilgrims, asking them what on earth they would buy, but they looked at the salesman in the eye and answered,
"We buy truth."
This, of course, made the vendors hate the pilgrims even more, and the salesman taunted Christian and Faithful. Word of the pilgrims was brought to the Lord of the fair, and he sent some of his men to examine Christian and Faithful. So the two pilgrims were brought to an examination where they were interrogated, and the two innocent pilgrims were beaten brutally, smeared with mud, and thrown into a cage to be a spectacle in the fair, with taunting and laughing at them. Christian and Faithful did not get angry, however, and blessed those that did ill to them. After a while, the two poor men were again brought before the examiners, and again they were brutally beaten and hung in iron chains and paraded around the fair. Through the humiliation and torture, Christian and Faithful remained silent, but this angered the fair men even more, so much so that they decided to put the two pilgrims to death. The two men were put back in the cage, and they thought about what their friend Evangelist had told them would happen. They comforted each other, and each man secretly wished he would be the one to die. The men were then taken before Judge Lord Hakegood.
Order in the court! These pilgrims and enemies have made commotions and disorder in this town, and have even won over a few to their dangerous opinions in the contempt of the law of their prince.
Faithful tried to defend himself, saying that he had only set himself against those against the most blessed one. He said,
"And as to you, the king you talk of, since he is Beelzebub, the enemy of our Lord, I defy him and all of his angels."
Then 3 witnesses came, named Envy, Superstition, and Pickthank. Envy said,
"Your Honor, this man is one of the vilest men in our country. He even stated that Christianity and our town vanity are completely opposite, and the two cannot be together. Thus, Your Honor, he not only condemns what we do, he condemns we the people."
Order in the court! Do you have any more to say?
Your Honor, I could go on for hours, but I do not want to waste time, so I shall not stand aside. If you need more evidence, I am available.
Then Superstition testified,
"Your Honor, this man is a disgusting fellow. I heard him say that our religion is false, and one could not please God through it, and therefore we are cursed. This is all I have to say."
Lastly, Pickthank gave his evidence.
Your
honor, this man has said wretched things about noble Beelzebub and his wonderful friends. In essence, saying they shouldn't even be in the town. Besides, he has said horrible things about you, Your Honor, saying you are an ungodly villain. You heretic, you traitor! Have you heard what these men have said about you?
Faithful answered,
May I speak a few words in my defense?
You don't deserve to live any longer. Go ahead and say whatever you want to spit out, you little...
I never said any of these evil Mr. Envy, Mr. Superstition, Mr. Pickthank claimed I spoke. However, I do believe that this town customs are completely opposite of Christianity. I also believe a relationship and worship of God is required of divine faith. And lastly, I believe that the prince of this town comrades are fit for hell, so the Lord may have mercy on me.
Then the judge called the jury together.
Gentlemen, you have heard what the men of our town have said against this pilgrim, and you have heard his reply. It's up to you whether he is hung or his life is saved. Men, remember in the olden days there was an act made that males of a contrary religion should be thrown into the river? Remember the days of Nebuchadnezzar. Anyone who wouldn't worship him would be thrown into the fiery furnace. Remember the days of Darius, that any who called upon God would be thrown in the lion's den. Now this vile rebel has broken all of these laws. I'm not saying a word, not one single word. But if you ask me, this criminal deserves to be put to death.